Toronto doesn't announce its future with fireworks. It arrives quietly, like snowfall that covers the city before you notice. By 2040, imagine standing at the base of the CN Tower as the skyline glows with clean energy and silent autonomous streetcars glide through downtown. Everything feels calm, orderly, almost gentle. Your health check happens passively as you walk, sensors in the sidewalk reading your gait, your breath, your temperature, then suggesting you slow down, drink water, book a checkup. The city calls it care. But when a city can measure you continuously, it can also judge you continuously. And that's when smart starts to feel like supervision. Toronto today feels like a crossroads city, finance towers and immigrant neighborhoods, tech offices and university campuses, winter grit and summer waterfront energy. It's diverse in a way that shows up in food, languages, and street life. It's also a city that believes, deeply, in systems, healthcare, public transit, planning, rules that keep things working. That culture makes Toronto fertile ground for AI, not because people want a sci-fi makeover, but because they want smoother services, less waiting, fewer bottlenecks, better housing planning, smarter healthcare. And in a city that already trusts institutions, the leap from helpful AI to AI everywhere can happen faster than anyone expects. By 2040, Toronto's AI transformation looks like urban design on autopilot. Entire waterfront districts are planned by models that simulate traffic, sunlight, wind tunnels, noise, school capacity, and even social cohesion, then output neighborhoods as if they were software builds. Construction gets modular and precise, buildings assembled faster, energy performance optimized, maintenance predicted years ahead. City services become proactive, permits processed instantly, potholes flagged by sensor buses, waste pickup scheduled by demand. In healthcare, AI triage systems reduce emergency room overload by catching risk early, before symptoms become crises. It's the best version of a well-run city. But it's also a city where the model's definition of better living starts shaping what gets built, and who it's built for. Transportation becomes Toronto's quiet flex. Electric autonomous buses and streetcars operate like a single coordinated organism, rerouting around weather, events, and crowd surges in real time. Stations feel calmer because capacity is predicted and distributed, more vehicles dispatched before people even realize demand is rising. For longer distances, autonomous shuttles connect suburbs to downtown with time transfers, reducing the daily stress of commuting. And in winter storms, the system switches into snow mode, slower speeds, safer spacing, heated platforms, automated de-icing routes. The city moves with a kind of polite precision. But the trade is that mobility becomes permission-based. Your route, your fare, your access level can be adjusted by the same systems that manage everything else. Smart living in Toronto 2040 centers on wellness, because that's the language that makes constant monitoring feel acceptable. Homes track air quality, sleep cycles, hydration, and stress levels, then adjust lighting, temperature, and sound to stabilize you. Bathroom mirrors run quick scans for skin changes and inflammation, kitchen counters recommend meals based on your biomarkers and schedule. In condos, the building itself becomes a health manager, elevator air is filtered differently during flu season, shared spaces are cleaned by autonomous systems, and outbreaks are detected early through anonymized signals. It's comforting, until you realize the city now has a health profile of everyone, updated daily. And once that data exists, the next question is inevitable: who gets to see it, and what do they get to decide with it? White-collar work changes quietly but completely. By 2040, many office jobs become approval roles, humans reviewing AI-generated plans, budgets, forecasts, and legal drafts. Banks rely on models to detect fraud and manage risk, city agencies automate permitting and compliance, schools use AI tutors that adapt to each student minute by minute. Productivity rises, but so does pressure. When AI can do the first draft instantly, expectations become relentless. Some workers thrive as high-level editors and decision-makers. Others get squeezed into gig-like micro-tasks, labeling, auditing, verifying, work that feels less like a career and more like feeding a machine. In a city built on stability, the new instability isn't unemployment. It's permanent evaluation. Toronto becomes so optimized that you start losing the ability to be unreadable. The city knows when you're likely to get sick before you feel it. It knows when you're stressed before you admit it. It knows which route you'll take, which cafe you'll choose, even which kind of news will keep you calm. And the moment a system can predict you, it can also influence you, nudging behavior in the name of health, safety, and efficiency. Most people won't resist because it works. The streets feel cleaner. Waiting times shrink. Emergencies drop. But optimization has a hidden cost, the freedom to be messy, spontaneous, and private, without being flagged as a problem. Surveillance in Toronto 2040 is disguised as infrastructure. Sensors in transit hubs track crowd mood and density. Safety poles, combine cameras, microphones, and environmental monitors. Digital ID makes services seamless, getting into buildings, accessing healthcare, confirming transit fares, but it also ties your real-world movement to your digital footprint. Officials insist the system is privacy-preserving, audited, and regulated. And maybe it is. But the power isn't only in misuse, it's in existence. Because once a city builds the ability to observe everything, it becomes very hard for future leaders, future crises, or future corporations to resist using that power more aggressively. Inequality in 2040 isn't only about income, it's about data power. People who can afford premium services get more privacy controls, better dispute resolution, and faster access to the systems that run the city. Everyone else gets default settings, more tracking, more nudging, fewer options to opt out. And as AI becomes embedded in housing allocation, credit decisions, and health prioritization, the question of data ownership becomes personal. If your health data helps the city predict outbreaks, do you get a benefit, or did you just donate your life to a dashboard? Toronto becomes a test case for a modern social contract. If a city runs on your data, what do you get back in return? A day in Toronto 2040 feels smooth, almost too smooth. Your building knows when you're leaving and sends an elevator before you press the button. The streetcar arrives as you step outside, because your commute is predicted to the minute. At work, your AI assistant summarizes meetings you haven't attended yet, because it already simulated outcomes and drafted decisions. Later, you meet friends at the waterfront, and your wearable gently suggests a quieter path because your stress is elevated. You didn't ask for any of this. You just accepted the defaults, because the defaults make life easier. And then one day, you try to do something unexpected, go off-route, pay in cash, stay offline, and you discover how many doors only open when the city can recognize you. The final vision of Toronto 2040 is a city that feels like it's been quietly perfected. Clean transit. Healthier air. Faster services. Neighborhoods designed like living systems. And for many people, it's a dream, proof that technology can make urban life kinder. But the shadow is subtle. A city this optimized must constantly measure you to keep optimizing. It must track, predict, and correct. Toronto becomes the gentlest version of an AI city, and that's what makes it so powerful. Because the easiest surveillance to accept is the one that feels like care. If a fully optimized Toronto meant longer life, fewer emergencies, and smoother daily living, but it required a digital ID and continuous data sharing, would you sign up? Comment opt-in or no way, and tell me what data you would never give a city. This is Infinity AI TV, infinite stories, infinite imagination. Subscribe for more news.